Hello YouTube! My name is Jennifer Radke and the name of my website is iwishiwereme.com. And today I want to talk a little bit about the problem with dieting. This is something I've covered a little bit in some of the other videos that I've done. I did a speech for my Toastmasters Club that was about this, so that is on my YouTube channel. As well, I've talked about the diet cycle in other videos. So there's a little bit of overlap there. But this is more kind of in response to some of the situations that are coming up in my life right now. So to start with, I want to say that a diet is a restriction on food consumption. And that is not necessarily just meaning something like Weight Watchers, where you are tracking your points and counting your calories. It could also be something like keto, where you're actually watching what types of foods you're eating. It could be something like a cleanse, where you are not allowed to eat solid foods. It could be something like intermittent fasting, where you are not eating for a certain amount of time. Whatever type of restriction is placed on you, that is what qualifies it as a diet, in my opinion. What I want to talk about is the diet cycle. And this is something that I think I have been wrapped up in for decades. It probably started when I was very young. I started with using food in ways that were in an attempt to cope and understand my surroundings when I was probably about 7 or 8. When I was in my early teens, maybe 11 or 12, maybe somewhere earlier there, I started to use exercise in order to cope with my feelings and cope with my food consumption. And then when I hit about 20-ish, I started actually formally dieting using those programs like Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Atkins, etc., etc., etc. And what I noticed for myself especially was that there was a cycle I would go through. So I would go on this diet. It would be this fantastic, awesome diet, and I would lose weight. Mostly because I'm an extremely type A personality who has perfectionistic tendencies. So, if I was given a diet, I would follow that diet to the T, to the letter. It had to be exactly perfect. So, I would lose weight. You would feel with this weight loss, this sense of elation, of accomplishment, of success, of having something in your life that's in control. It doesn't normally last, though. And it doesn't last for a bunch of reasons. One, you could have hit your goal weight. And for me, that's normally what it was, is I hit my goal weight, and when I hit my goal weight, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have that program. I didn't have that letter of the law that told me exactly what rules I needed to follow in order to keep this weight loss there. When I originally started I Wish I Were Me, I was focused on that. That was kind of what I was focusing on, was the fact that so many of these diets in today's day and age get you to the point you want to be, but then don't tell you how to keep yourself there. I began to realize, though, that nobody wants you to stay there. And the problem with dieting is that the effects it has on your body means you will never actually stay there. But for me, in terms of the diet cycle, I would go on the diet, I would lose the weight, I would feel this sense of elation, success, accomplishment, and then I would start to gain the weight back for whatever reason. Again, this could just be because you start eating like a normal person. It could be because you had a big trip planned and off you go to that trip. It could be because something unexpected comes up in your life and next thing you know, you are either eating more than you would have on the diet or just eating more like a normal person. Once that weight gain starts to happen, that's when the shame and the guilt kick in. Because you had mastered something, you had gotten something under control, you had checked something off the list. And next thing you know, that's taken away from you. What normally happens at this point is there'll be a trigger. trigger can come in many different forms. This could be you tried on a pair of pants that no longer fit. You got on the scale and realized you'd gained some weight. You see a picture and you don't like how that picture looks. Any or all of these things could all of a sudden trigger you to feel like you need to get the food under control again. And so then you start back on that diet cycle. Getting the full way through this cycle could take a very long time. When I started my very, very first diet, it took me probably 4 months, 5 months to lose the weight I wanted to lose. And it took me just about 2 years before I got myself back to the point where I'd gained some weight and I'd felt that trigger to want to start again. It can sometimes take a very long time. That's part of the problem with dieting, is that you think you were successful because you took the weight off. But if you ever have to go back on that diet again, or any other diet because you've gained weight, then it really wasn't successful, was it? It could take a very long time, but it could happen. You could gain that weight back. The statistics are also really clear on this. Diets don't work. 95 to 98% of people who go on a diet will gain the weight that they lost and or more back. That's a pretty big statistic. Even though it took me 2 years to gain that weight back, I am part of that statistic, even if I wasn't to take that big cycle again. Unfortunately, I did. And I did this for 30 some odd years of my life. I must have completed 15 mass-marketed diets at the bare minimum. I had paid my dues to diet culture. And now I'm wanting to change things a little bit. The second reason why dieting just doesn't work is that it messes with your metabolism. So in order to keep seeing results, in order to keep losing the weight, you have to continually decrease your calories and continually increase your workouts. So you jump back onto a diet cycle. You've done one, you lost some weight, so when your trigger happens and you're kind of like, yeah, I'm triggered, I need to start another diet, I need to lose this weight. You jump back onto another diet, and you're realizing it's not coming off quite as fast. And this is because your metabolism has slowed down because of the low calories and the increased workouts that you've been doing. So you look at it and go, okay, well, I was doing 1,500 calories. I will drop it down to 1,200 calories. Or I was doing 30 minutes at the gym. I'm going to up that to 45 minutes. This can start a whole other cycle of disordered eating. And there are so many examples of how the diet can slowly start to take over your life. And sometimes it takes more than one cycle for this to start to happen. But eventually, the diet will start to take over your life. So you will begin to go, okay, well, I wasn't losing weight. I'm not losing it. So I'm going to have to give up something. So I'm not going to go out with my friends on wine night anymore. That's done, over with. Forget about it. This can start to lead to social isolation. So that's just one thing that can happen when you start to get into these diet cycles and you're in them perpetually. You can also start to give up on other goals and dreams because you're like, okay, well, I need to get in some more time at the gym. So that means I'm going to have to give up either time with my kids or time with my husband or time, making the house tidy if that's something that you really like to do. Or if you're starting to write a book, you're going to have to give up time on that. Or trying to get ahead in your career, you're going to have to cut down on the time you're there. And if you don't, you're just going to keep wearing yourself out. So this is another problem with dieting and the diet cycle. Messing with your metabolism, though, can do more damage than just about anything else. The social isolation, the disordered eating, that becomes problematic once you step out of that diet cycle. The metabolism part also becomes problematic when you step out of the diet cycle because all of a sudden your metabolism is slow and your body is thinking that you are not going to give it any more nutrients. So it's holding on to everything it has, and it needs that time, and a lot of time, and probably some weight in order for it to figure out how it can speak to you in a way that you will understand what its needs are. This can be so damaging to the psyche and the mental state because you have worked so hard. I mean, for myself, I worked so hard to take the weight off again and again and again. And now I'm stepping back and saying, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to step into another diet. I'm not going to grab another program. I'm not going to lose my life to a diet anymore. I'm just not going to do it. So that means my metabolism is now going, okay, well, now that you're eating, you're going to gain some weight. And I have been. I don't have an issue with this. It gets to be something that it was kind of like my old diet mentality where it was like, okay, well, what else are you going to do? Are you just going to let yourself go? Now it's, well, what else are you going to do? Are you just going to step into another diet? That's a bad idea. So it gets to a point where you begin to realize that the dieting had taken over your life and you don't want it to do that anymore. You have other things that you want to accomplish. Therefore, I'm not going to allow the diet to take over my life. I'm not going to even attempt another diet. I just think that it's important for us to start talking about why dieting is so problematic in the world we live in and what are some of the things that we can start to do. And probably the biggest thing that we can start to do to begin to reconcile some of these problems that dieting creates, not just in our physical state, but in our mental state and our emotional state, is to make the decision to stop dieting. Stop. There's so much health information out there about what you need to eat and what you can't eat and what you should be doing for workouts, and just stop. Take a deep breath and begin to go inward to figure out what it is that you need and want. Your body, your health, and your weight are your business and yours alone. And it's time we started getting more in touch with our bodies and figuring out what our bodies want instead of allowing outside world to tell us what we should be. If you need any more information about the types of things that I offer, about the types of stuff that I am looking at doing, I have a free blog on there that's got information and it's really consistent. Go ahead and check it out. iwishiwereme.com, Jennifer Radke. Oh, and sorry about the background stuff going on.